From calling Dubronx out for lacking motivation to believing he's got an easy win against his opponent, let's dive into how Beneil Dariush opens up about Charles Oliveira. Turns out, Oliveira isn't too excited to step into the octagon with Benny. A fight between these two has fallen through once again. Charles and Beneil signed on the dotted line to go against each other at UFC 288, but the co-headlining matchup on May 6, 2023 couldn't see the light of the day. All thanks to a last-minute withdrawal by Oliveira. This bout was highly anticipated by fans because it was going to determine the next #1 contender for the lightweight gold. Beneil believes that the bout fell through because his opponent lacked focus and motivation. While speaking to the Schmo, the Iranian said, "I'm seeing him in like Australia. I'm seeing him with big back tattoos. And I don't feel like he was as focused and motivated." Beneil then went on about how fighters tend to injure themselves when they jump into camp without motivation. They bite more than they can chew, and injuries are more likely to happen this way. And the lightweight wasn't wrong, because that's exactly what happened. Charles pulled out from the bout due to an undisclosed injury. The fighter broke his silence on the situation after getting backlash for pulling out from the fight. I mean, you can't blame the fans. They were pissed. The co-main event between these two was long awaited. The Brazilian MMA star fessed up to not being able to train for the fight. He suffered an injury during wrestling practice, and even after toughing it up, he couldn't train and pulled out from the fight. The athlete said he was looking forward to the bout and was just as excited as his fans. Especially because two of his teammates, Daniel Santos and Rolando Bedoya, were fighting on the same night. Plus, the former lightweight champion wanted to get back to title contention with a win over the #6 rank, Dariush. Too bad his injury has put a halt to those plans. And fighting injured is a bad idea because it does more harm than good. But it's almost as if Charles doesn't want to fight his rival. Yeah, he's bailed on Benny before, and not once, but twice. This dates back to 2020 when both the fighters were supposed to step into the cage together. Everything was confirmed. Contracts were signed, and fans were hyped. But it didn't last too long, because Oliveira dropped out only a few days after the fight was announced. He said he had some personal family issues that kept him from fighting. But here's the part that confused everyone, including Beneil. Dubronx accepted a fight with Tony Ferguson just weeks later. So did the family issues disappear into thin air? Or did they only exist when he was stepping into the octagon with Benny? Whatever the reason was, Beneil was pissed. And he had every reason to be. Beneil wasn't nearly as good as he is now back in the day, so fans assumed that Charles wanted a more high-profile fight. But hey, once you sign the contract, you need to stay true to your word. So it wasn't professional of him to bail on Dariush the way he did, and he only kept making things worse. One thing was clear. Beneil really wanted this fight, and Oliveira was ready to fight anyone but him. It would piss anyone off. Benny accused his rival of dodging real opponents and going for impossible fights. Hear me out. Beneil isn't one to take shots at fighters in the UFC. He's the most even-tempered fighter out there. But he has a bone to pick with Charles. The lightweight told The Fighter vs. the Writer that the Brazilian was challenging opponents he knew couldn't fight him. This came after Oliveira publicly challenged Conor McGregor to a fight. Which doesn't sound impossible, but McGregor was recovering from an almost career-ending injury after his fight with Dustin Poirier. So it was stupid to challenge him because it was obvious he was going to be out for a while. Beneil called Charles out for chasing a unicorn because he was going for McGregor and Nate Diaz, when Dariush and Islam Makhachev were better possible opponents. Bailing on a fight once isn't that bad, but Oliveira did it again. Yeah, even after all the 2020 drama. These two decided to step into the octagon in March 2023. A lot goes into a fight when two fighters agree to face each other. Months of intense training, crazy diets, and whatnot. And it all goes to waste if someone drops out last minute. While talking to the Schmo, Benny revealed that he was pissed at his upcoming opponent for delaying the bout. Turns out, the two lightweights were supposed to fight in March 2023. But Oliveira wasn't seeing eye to eye with Dariush and kept on dragging the bout. This took a toll on Dariush, who was training like crazy, cutting weight, and eating right. All the while, he had a new baby at home. The fighter wanted to spend time with his baby girl instead of training for months on end, but it never seems to end. The fighters were then booked for May 6, 2023, but as we know, that one fell through too. Well, don't fret, because they've signed on the dotted line once again. Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush is set for June 10th, 2023 in Canada. UFC 289 might finally see this matchup come to life. I mean, if it gets canceled for a third time, then it's simply not meant to be. I take the hint. Do Bronx is back at training, so it looks like fans will see them lock horns in Canada, finally. The lightweight bout will be a co-main event along with the women's bantamweight title. Both the fighters are coming in strong. Beneil is a little stronger than Charles. Yeah, the Portuguese had his 11-win streak snapped by Islam Makhachev in October 2022. Benny, on the other hand, he's on a winning streak with 8 wins. And it doesn't look like he's gonna lose this one. He's got the majority vote on who's most likely to win. I mean, take it from the reigning lightweight champion himself. Islam Makhachev's rooting for Beneil. The champion told BT Sport that he wants Benny to win this one. The Russian MMA star then went on about how Beneil has excellent skills. Striking, wrestling, grappling, he's got it all. The upcoming match is going to decide who the next title contender is, and Islam wants it to be Beneil because he believes he's the better fighter. And the champion wants a new challenge for himself, especially because he defeated Charles in 2022. It won't be new when he does it again in 2023. Makhachev's the current lightweight champion, so he definitely knows what he's talking about. Plus, he's not the only one who thinks Dariush is going to be a tough one for Oliveira. Former MMA star Paul Felder also believes Benny is a big threat to Do Bronx. Felder thinks Beneil has everything he needs to knock out Oliveira. He's a southpaw who isn't afraid to stand. According to Paul, Beneil's an even tougher opponent than Makhachev for the Brazilian. It's because of his style. Makhachev's one to try and wrestle. Charles knows his way around that. But Benny won't be shy to throw some kicks to get him what he wants. It's going to be a great fight regardless of who wins, that's for sure. But fans do want to see Oliveira put on a good performance too. They want him to improve before making his way back to the octagon. The Brazilian went on a tear after returning to lightweight. Winning 11 fights in a row isn't child's play. So don't get me wrong, I know Oliveira is great, but he needs to change his style before stepping into the cage with Dariush. He falls down every time he gets hit and lays there instead of immediately getting up. If he continues to do this, this fight will be nothing but another embarrassment for him. I'm sure he doesn't want that. He needs to make sure he stays on his feet throughout the bout if he wants to win this one, and Oliveira is definitely one to pull an upset. But he needs to work really hard, because his opponent is very confident. Benny believes it's going to be an easy win for him, and he's walking into the octagon with a strategy. He's got a game plan. The athlete talked to the Schmo about how he's planning on dominating every second of the fight. He said, "If we fight 3 rounds, he doesn't get anything from me. He's been training for a very long time now, plus this fight means he's got a lot at stake. I mean, who doesn't want a shot at the title? The man's a full package, so he's got every chance to win this one. I mean, don't you remember how he ran through Ferguson? I think he's got this one." So from believing he's got an easy win against Do Bronx to calling him out for lacking motivation, that was everything on Beneil Dariush opening up about Charles Oliveira.